Well, it's time to talk about this again. I've been in the industry long enough to see this happen more times than I can count, but the rash of holding company mergers and buyouts and the chloroforming of agencies has happened recently, as I'm sure you know, on a scale and a speed we've never seen before. And make no mistake, this is not holding companies trying to expand and create, this is retention. This is lack. This is anxiety. We've got to own the other ones. We've got to put so much under our umbrella that we are unassailable. This is war. This is account war. And let's just call it what it is. A holding company is not in the same business as an advertising agency. A holding company is there for money, the profitability of owning agencies and being able to use that to get richer and richer and richer. It's a holding company. They hold money, they hold companies for money. So realize we're not in the same business. Now, if you are an employee or maybe an agency CEO of an agency in and under a holding company, and it gives you a sense of safety and security that there will be a good Christmas, a good Hanukkah this year, or there will be a Disneyland trip for the family next year, even though mommy or daddy works an awful lot, the money's coming, and that gives you a sense of safety, security. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. I hope that job and paycheck sustains and goes on for the rest of your life. But when you look at the thousands of people put on the street, you could argue they weren't very good in the first place, whatever you want to say, I don't care, but look at it. How many people have been asking this question? If a holding company has to make cutbacks, but also has billions of dollars in their pockets or to leverage or to borrow to buy another agency, and that agency had cutbacks, and that agency is bought and gets a big windfall of money, what's really going on here? There's a sense that the agency model is crumbling and shrinking into what? A few people running AI. A few people running AI. Is there another theory? I don't know. But the point is, why would this retention and the swallowing up suddenly of all these other entities under this large megalithic thing of a holding company, why the rush to do that? Why such huge sums of cash going this way and that way to do so? Well, think about it if you want, but I've got another challenge for you. If you are a creative person, not a holding company person, not that there aren't people who work for holding companies that aren't creative people, and I don't just mean creative accounting. If you're a creative person, a writer, a thinker, a visionary, a poet, an artist, a dreamer, a musician, whatever, stay independent. Stay independent. If you look at the history of the last 20 years, the agencies that have stayed independent, maybe two great ones, they're still strong and they have loyal clients and they still get work and the people are paid, but so many from the 50s, the 40s, the 60s, the big one we know about, even ones started in the 80s, in the 70s, they grow so big, they get bigger, then they get bought up, then they get chloroformed. Some have disappeared, and some are based on people's names and become initials, and sometimes they stick around in some places. Remember, the quest for bigness only leads to one place: death. Death. The bigger you get, the more you're putting a gun to your own head and letting someone else pull the trigger. You can be big. I mean, there's, Wieden and Kennedy, they're big, but they're independent. That means they are in charge of their own fortune, their own direction. Now, do you want to be bigger than Wieden and Kennedy? Why? Do you need offices in every single country, and do you want to employ millions of people? It's hard to do that as an independent because of the way global markets are and the way investments are done and the way markets are managed. You really have to understand that the quest for bigness is a dangerous quest. Morton J. Shyatt had that famous line, I want to see how big we can get before we get bad. Now, I kind of respect that because you want to see how well you can sell creativity to the world before you have to compromise it. Now, Guy said, I just don't want to know. There's a purity there, and there's a risk taker's openness on the other. Neither is right or wrong, and that's what it was. But if you are an art director, if you are a writer, if you are a poet, if you're a dreamer, if you're a photographer, a painter, a producer, a director, or whatever you are that brings sensitivity to the world, if you need to, break away from your agency and start a new one. If you are at a creative agency trying to do this, stand up tall and own the fact you're an independent creative agency, maybe 3 people or 300. And the thing I've always thought was a good idea, why don't we form constellations? Not mergers and acquisitions, but constellations. And this has been done many times before, but now's the time it really should be done. Why couldn't a handful of independent creative agencies say, we are part of a constellation? We're independent, separate businesses, but anytime there's a larger piece of business, we can join together to pitch it and service it. And we can service it as an organization of separate little companies that provide to the client. I know there are probably a dozen clients I can think of right now who would just salivate at an opportunity like that to get the power, the reach, and the network, but all being based on creative. Now, the problem is creative people are notoriously bad at playing well together, which is why creative agencies usually never do that, because we go into the cycle of, well, if someone gets the account before ours, then we're going to suffer. We have to get an account before they do. It's human nature. But I beg you, really, beg all of us to stand up for what we do and find new ways of organizing ourselves that are not mergers and acquisitions, but alliances to spread the creativity that we have to the masses. How big can we get before we get bad? Maybe we don't want to find out, so don't. But there's nothing wrong with growth. There's nothing wrong with growth, but there is a point where being too big only leads to death. Good luck, everybody.